Have you ever opened an old box tucked away in the corner of a closet, only to find a cigarette pack faded with time? The scent of silver foil, a faint trace of smoke. It feels like stepping back into a distant afternoon. There, on the porch, a father sits quietly beside his cup of coffee. Or perhaps on a bustling street, gentlemen in crisp suits draw a cigarette, strike a lighter with a sharp click, and take a long inhale, as if trying to hold on to a slower rhythm of life. Today, we'll journey back in time to remember 10 cigarette brands that have disappeared. Names that only true Americans still keep alive in memory. Lucky Strike, from glory to silence. Let's turn the clock back to a time when Lucky Strike wasn't just a cigarette, it was America's smoke. During World War II, it was tucked into soldiers' rations, as familiar as their helmets and rifles. For many, that red bullseye on the pack was a small comfort in the mud of Europe or the sands of the Pacific. When the war ended, Lucky Strike followed those men home. In the 1940s and 50s, it filled jazz clubs in New York, the smoke curling through saxophone solos, mixing with laughter and neon lights. For a moment, a single puff felt like part of the American dream itself. But dreams change. By the 1960s and 70s, health studies sounded alarms, and younger generations turned to filtered, healthier brands, or walked away from cigarettes altogether. Lucky Strike, once the hottest name in tobacco, faded into the background. Today, it survives only in memory, an echo of a time when a pack of smokes could be both a soldier's comfort and a symbol of cool on a city night. Chesterfield, the voice of a generation. Let's rewind the reel, back to the 1940s and 50s, when Chesterfield was everywhere. Picture a summer afternoon at the ballpark, the crack of the bat, the cheer of the crowd, and a Chesterfield ad echoing over the loudspeakers. On the radio at home, warm-voiced announcers promised, "They satisfy." That slogan, repeated again and again, stitched itself into daily American life. Chesterfield wasn't just tobacco. It was tied to the golden age of baseball, of radio dramas, even Hollywood. Stars like Ronald Reagan and Bob Hope held a pack in their hands, making it feel glamorous, familiar, and almost essential. But the story didn't last. As the 1960s unfolded, the Surgeon General's warning changed everything. Concerns over health grew, filtered cigarettes took over, and Chesterfield, with its strong, unfiltered smoke, quickly lost favor. Today, what remains are the old jingles on scratchy recordings, the faded posters, and the memory of a time when a cigarette brand could be part of the soundtrack of American life. Old Gold. A golden moment in time. Let's drift back to the 1950s, when America was buzzing with jukeboxes, drive-in theaters, and the promise of something new. On the shelves of every corner store sat a pack that practically glowed. Old Gold. With its shiny yellow wrapper and bold, colorful designs, it felt less like a cigarette and more like a golden ticket to sophistication. Commercials of the time made it sparkle even brighter. "Not a cough in a carload," the ads claimed, as smiling couples lit up in convertibles under neon lights. Old Gold wasn't just tobacco. It was fashion, fun, and a little slice of mid-century glamour. But as the decades turned, tastes began to change. The health warnings grew louder, filtered brands stole the spotlight, and Old Gold's once brilliant shine began to fade. By the 1970s and beyond, the brand that once promised excitement quietly slipped into obscurity. Now, Old Gold exists mostly in memory, like a faded photograph, reminding us of a time when even a cigarette pack could capture the sparkle of an entire era. Viceroy. The first with a filter. Let's rewind to the 1950s, when sleek cars lined the streets, radios hummed with rock and roll, and cigarette packs were as much a part of daily life as a cup of coffee. Among them was Viceroy, a brand that proudly declared itself the very first to use a filter. Back then, that little white tip felt like the future, offering smokers the same rich taste, but with a promise of something smoother, maybe even safer. For a while, Viceroy stood out. You'd see them in office desk drawers, on fishing trips, or slipped into shirt pockets at backyard barbecues. Their ads spoke directly to families, even suggesting that Viceroy was the smart choice for health-conscious Americans. But as the years rolled on, the market grew crowded. Competitors like Marlboro and Camel stormed ahead with bolder campaigns and sharper images. Viceroy, once the pioneer, slowly got lost in the noise. By the time health concerns reshaped the culture, its name had already faded from the spotlight. Today, Viceroy survives mostly in memory, an echo of a moment when one cigarette promised a new kind of smoking, and briefly, it felt like the future. Pall Mall, the gentleman's smoke. Close your eyes and picture a quiet Sunday in mid-century America. The newspaper rustles, a record spins softly in the background, and there in the stillness, an American man leans back in his chair, a Pall Mall between his fingers. In those years, Pall Mall was more than a cigarette. With its longer size and smoother taste, it promised a refined smoke, a touch of calm in a busy world. Ads called it wherever particular people congregate, and for a while, that felt true. You could find Pall Malls in coat pockets at church picnics, or on front porches where neighbors gathered to share the day's stories. But time has a way of moving on. As Marlboro and other brands stormed the market with bolder images and heavier advertising, Pall Mall slowly lost its voice. By the 1970s, it had slipped into the background, its quiet dignity overshadowed by flashier names. Tareyton. Let's turn the clock back to the 1960s, a time of bold ads and black and white televisions flickering in living rooms across America. On those screens appeared a cigarette brand that dared to be different, Tareyton. With its famous slogan, "I'd rather fight than switch," it became more than a cigarette. It was a statement. People still remember those striking ads, men and women with a bold black eye painted across their faces, proudly holding a Tareyton. It was quirky, defiant, and unforgettable. For many, the taste was less important than the image it carried. Rebellious, loyal, and just a little bit stylish. But as the decades passed, the charm faded. Health warnings grew louder, Marlboro and other giants dominated the shelves, and Tareyton's unique campaign no longer fit the times. By the late 1980s, the brand that once made a cultural splash had slipped quietly into history. L&M, the cigarette of a new generation. Close your eyes and picture America in the early 1960s. Jukeboxes glowing in diners, the first chords of rock and roll spilling into the night, and teenagers chasing a future that felt brand new. And tucked into the shirt pocket of many young dreamers was a pack of L&M. Clean in its blue and white design, sharp, modern, and made for a generation eager to break away from the old. L&M was more than a cigarette. It was an emblem of the times. Its ads promised just what the doctor ordered, and for a while, it really did feel like the choice of youth, fresh, stylish, and perfectly in step with the pop culture boom. But as the years rolled on, the tide began to change. Marlboro's cowboy rode into the spotlight, health concerns grew louder, and L&M slowly lost the spark that once made it shine. By the 1980s, its voice in American culture had faded, leaving only echoes in yellowed magazines and half-remembered jingles. Today, L&M survives in scattered memories, a pack glimpsed in an old photograph, a name whispered like a song from the past, reminding us of a time when even a cigarette could capture the restless energy of youth. Kool. Step back with me for a moment. To a summer afternoon in the 1950s. The radio humming in the background, kids playing stickball in the street, and someone leaning back on the porch with a fresh pack of Kool. Its icy menthol bite was unlike anything else at the time. Sharp, refreshing, a cool breeze in cigarette form. Kool wasn't just tobacco. It was an experience. Advertisements showed penguins and snowflakes, promising a taste that cut through the heat of the day. For many, that first draw was unforgettable, smooth, crisp, and instantly recognizable. But the world kept moving. By the 1980s, tastes shifted. New brands rose, and menthol itself became a smaller corner of the market. Health concerns grew louder, and Kool, once so bold and distinctive, slowly slipped into the background. Parliament, the cigarette with a notch of style. Close your eyes and picture it, an evening in the 1960s. Neon lights glowing over a downtown diner, jukebox playing softly in the corner, and on the table, a slim pack of Parliament. It wasn't just another cigarette. That recessed filter, with its curious little hollow, felt futuristic, something sleek, something different. Parliament carried an air of sophistication. Ads promised a cleaner draw, and many remember the ritual of holding that distinctive filter between their fingers, as if it set them apart from the crowd. For a while, it worked. Parliament became a quiet statement, elegant, modern, almost European in its style. But time has a way of reshuffling the stage. Other brands with bolder campaigns took over. Smoking itself began to fade under the weight of health warnings, and Parliament, once celebrated for its unique design, slowly lost its spotlight. Camel non-filter, the original icon. Think back to the days when billboards still lit up the highways. Bold colors, sweeping slogans, and always that familiar camel staring back at you. The original Camel non-filter was more than just a cigarette. It was a symbol of grit, of raw America. During the mid-20th century, you couldn't walk through a city street without spotting that pack. Its sandy tones, its exotic mascot, promising adventure with every puff. Veterans returning from war, factory workers on their lunch breaks, even movie stars in black and white stills, Camel was there, stitched into the fabric of daily life. But time is unkind to legends. As filters became the new standard and health concerns grew louder, the rugged, unfiltered Camel began to feel like a relic. Slowly, it slipped away from the shelves, surviving only in the hands of collectors and in fading memories. Those brands may have disappeared, but the memories remain. In the flick of a lighter, in the haze of smoke drifting beneath a street lamp, or in the quiet moment when someone sat lost in thought on the front porch. Cigarettes may fade away, but the memories, the culture, and an entire era still linger, like irreplaceable fragments of America's living history. If you've ever seen them, heard of them, or still carry a trace of that scent from the past, share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can join us on this journey through nostalgia, where memories become the bridge between yesterday and today.